this thing recording, so that way some of the.
You get our permission to record this?
Huh?
Aren't there federal statutes or something?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well,
Uh-huh.
you know. Well, I'll take a roll here real quick since Mark's running a little late. So, Emily. All right, no word from Emily yet. Chris Mitchell. Word from Chris. JJ, we know is here. Ira here. Mark Atkins here. Mark Beckenbach. All right. Sean, we heard from Sean. We've heard from Ann. Like we said, Adam might be running a little late. So.
And I heard from Emily. Emily was on there.
You scared her off.
I'm here.
Emily?
I'm here. I muted my phone.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. No problem. No problem. Glad to hear from you. All right. Well, let's. Obviously, this is our second of these every other month calls. I think it's good to kind of at least try and get together as much as we can. I know, especially this time of year, everybody is really, really busy. So we'll try and push through some of this stuff really quick and bring up some stuff maybe that's happened since we typed up this agenda. Obviously, our first thing that took up most of our time last time was the region/national SID of the Year contest. Like I said, my suggestion is kind of not to worry about, I guess, conferences, since that we could get bogged down trying to figure out conferences and whatever else. And just use the regions we have, and I guess maybe just open up, nominations relative to those regions and figure things out as we go. And then, and if we've got I guess most of the concerns about the timetable was maybe not including spring sports, which, I guess we can squeeze the voting and stuff into a compressed timetable. I guess it's kind of one of these things we're going to have to, if we're going to do it, we're going to have to try it and see how it works and maybe, tweak it as we go.
I think we'll always be tweaking. We'll find what works and we'll adjust as we go.
Any other thoughts on some of the notes I scribbled down here about, maybe opening up nominations in early May, trying to push through those, maybe, inside that month and try and get ourselves somewhere where we could still announce the winner prior to the workshop. Obviously, next year might be a little fortunate to get off the feet in the fact that COSIDA is going to be at the end of June as opposed to the beginning of June.
Sure.
Many of these nominations, anybody can just self-nominate themselves, or do they have to have?
I would think that's what it's probably going to have to be. I don't know if we can put many qualifiers on nominations. I would hope that we don't get a ton of self-nominations, but I guess that's the nature of the beast. If people, I know sometimes how I look at some of those things when I'm comparing a self-nomination as opposed to a somebody that's nominated by somebody else. But I don't necessarily know if we should restrict that.
Ideally, I think we want others, to nominate their peers. That would be the best case scenario. But I don't think it would be fair to restrict saying you can nominate yourself. But I know for a fact I'm nominating somebody else in my conference who I think does an incredible job given the resources. So. Hopefully a lot of others will also nominate some of their colleagues.
Yeah. Well, and like I say, it's one of those things that maybe once it gets off the feet, people start, get going with it, and it kind of takes on a life of its own. So I guess then our next step would be kind of, codifying this stuff into a little more of a plan, and then I guess figuring out, the nomination process, whether we develop a form, and it gets sent to, so if we had a form for a region and those forms got sent directly to the region rep representing that form and doing it that way, But that's something we can kind of, obviously, if we're not starting this till May, we're going to have a couple more chances to kind of look at this and put it together.
Lenny, since it was my baby last year, do you want me to come up in Google Forms with a sample form for us to look at for the next call?
Yeah, I think that would be fine. And then it's, like I said, it's something that, I think any of us that have a, website or something, heck, we can design a form and have it pushed through. And I think, I think if we get a sample of what a nomination form might look like, we can run it by some people and kind of see if we're on the right page and go from there. So that would be great, Ira, if you wanted to take care of that.
And in the event that we weren't, satisfied with the way it looks in Google Forms or something like that, I know with the new open water system that COSIDA is using for all of its awards, there's also some room there as well. So that's a backup plan.
Yeah, and I would have no problem using that, and that's something we can definitely talk to Lori about. And I would have no problem if COSIDA wants to help us host that type of thing. I have no problem, looking into that as well. I think obviously the more cooperation we can have with COSIDA, probably the better.
And I would offer up, if that doesn't work out, the ODAC award system. I'll offer that up too, and I'll run it.
I like that. I like that too. I like anybody volunteering to run something. So that's good. So,
are you goalkeeper of the year, JJ?
There is no such thing. But if you go to the NJAC, you have several awards of the year, but not in the ODAC.
Well, actually, our conference has a new person that we're thinking of nominating. Instead of the libero, it was sent out as the liberal of the year.
Oh,
so gotta love spell check. So we have a person who's very active in politics. So my coach is like, oh, she would be perfect. All I just have to do is submit a picture of her in her tie-dye shirt, and we're good to go. So.
Yikes!
Yep.
Given the part of the country I live in, I'll probably leave that alone. But that's all.
Yep.
Next, the logo contest. So, thank Emily for putting together that document and sending it to people. I know I looked at some of them or looked at them, and I guess, do we have any thoughts? Do we find something that appeals to everybody? Should we, have we not gotten an entry in a while, Emily? Or I guess, let me know what you're thinking on things here.
So I will say, as soon as that email went out and I posted on social media, that's when the bulk of them came in. I did send it out again, and I got one more. I think I probably will be the biggest critic for this. None of them strikes me, really hits me, as far as something that I think would be amazing. And like I said, I might be too critical, but that's just me. I'm all for keeping it going, but I know we're getting into that nasty part of the year known as crossover season for fall and winter, and I think right now it'd be the last thing on anybody's mind to try to do. So
yeah. Emily, I won't leave you sitting out there. This is JJ. I was underwhelmed by them as well. So just
thank you. We finally agree on something.
There's nothing here that I would give a yes vote to.
You can add 3 to that. Nothing that impressed me enough.
All right. Well, maybe we leave it out there. Maybe send a reminder. Obviously, same thing. This is not a time-sensitive type thing. We can kind of do it as much as we can. So, we can wait on it and see what we come up with later on, and go from there. So
Is it
the
something
only one that even was remotely good, in my opinion, was the white one with the blue that D3SIDA and had the NCAA logo as the whatever that term is for the dot on top of the I. That was the only one that I liked a little bit than the others.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously a concern if we're using somebody else's trademark, what that would
Right.
involve or whatever else. So yeah, so no, I like I said, I think it's one of those things we can kind of leave hanging out there, and you know, maybe at some point, Emily, maybe when we're getting close to Christmas break, maybe blast out again that we're still looking for entries. That way, maybe a time of year when people, have some time to sit
Yeah.
around and come up with something.
Yeah.
Is there-
And was it? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, do you think at this point, do we ask Bo from COSIDA to see if we might be able to whip something up saying that we're just curious what you come up with? We've had some submissions, but we don't want to be behind the eight ball. See what he comes up with?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth because that's what I was just going
Okay.
to ask. I thought it was you that brought it up. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt. I guess from a branding standpoint, can I ask a question? Like, do we want to be similar to COSIDA with our logo or do we want to make ourselves, distinct and do something totally different?
Well, I guess that's where I differ with everyone here, just because, and I sent in my votes for the nominees. I only really thought one was good, to be honest, and it was the gray one with the diagonal and the blue and red squares. I thought,
that was my
personally
favorite,
speaking, from a design standpoint, I thought that jumped out and was kind of different than all the other logos we see that are sort of in the same mix of logos that we have in our profession. So in my eyes, I saw that as a strong candidate to be the logo for our organization, and maybe it needs a little tweak to have a little bit more branding. But other than that, I don't know what else we're going to get from a design standpoint. I thought that was a strong candidate, personally speaking, because it was different and it was kind of not stuck in the same noise that everything else is in.
I would agree with that too. So,
Is that the one, and I hate to say this, that sort of looked like a swastika? I'm not at a computer.
an X, yeah. I mean an X, but yeah, you're right. It was kind of four. It was kind of four geometric
Boxes.
shapes. Yeah, yeah. So I guess if that's.
It did,
I'm sorry.
and I didn't
You're
want
on
to ask.
that band. You're going from liberal to that. So there you go. So.
As
I didn't
you
see
in
it
the room,
coming.
I didn't want to be the one to say that.
Well, I'm cognizant of it, so I just.
Oh, no, I get it.
Well, I don't think it's a problem to ask Bo what he thinks, and like I said, I can see both sides of where COSIDA might want logos similar, and I can see where they might not want logos similar. So Emily, since you kind of are the lead on this, would you mind emailing Bo and asking him what he thought and kind of explaining our situation to him?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you. So, all right. Academic All-America update. Mr. Beckenbaugh, I don't think has joined us at the moment, which he might have an event going on or something. I didn't look at his event schedule or anything for today, but I do know the new system is up and running. I haven't got on it myself. I'm assuming some of you may have already been on it. I did not make any of the training that the core committee members got this week. I didn't get on any of that, but I'm assuming it's not terribly difficult to use. So. Anybody log on to the system yet? Try and nominate soccer players?
Nope.
All right.
Lenny, I actually was on the Tuesday one because I'm one of the district people. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I'm doing, but and it seems very user friendly, and it honestly took about 10 minutes to go through and show how to use it. So I think it's going to be all around a lot better. So that's my 2 cents.
I'm looking forward to getting on it and get going with that stuff. So I know it's on my long list of things of getting nominees started and those sorts of things right there. So COSIDA update. Well, I had invited Will, but I know they have a board meeting today as well, call. So I didn't expect anybody from COSIDA to jump on this call. But I will say that I'm going to the NCAA convention in January, representing this group on behalf of COSIDA. So I don't know how many of the rest of you do go to the NCAA convention or will be going. I think I know Ann's going.
Actually, I may not be now. I've changed my mind.
Okay.
I got asked by Sienna to work, so.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do there. I'm I'm hoping my people will be ready to roll on basketball by that time. So.
I'll be there as the CD Mac chair.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, Ira will be there too. So.
I'll be there, Lenny. I'd love to meet you.
Don't be so sure about that, but okay. Well, I'll be there. So I'll be there. Actually, one of my student workers is actually going to be in the immersion program as well. So a football player for us that was fortunate enough to get chosen to the immersion program. So we're excited that he's going to be there as well. And actually, most of our people, just our faculty athletic rep is usually the only person that goes. So I'll be there with him as well. But Adam should be along here momentarily. So I guess in the meantime, we can skip up.
Want me to, with COSIDA update, you want me to talk about COSIDA programming at all?
Yeah, go ahead. What you got on your end of things?
So we, as a programming committee, we took all the responses that we received from the survey at the end of last convention. There was about 100 or so different ideas. We actually came up with a new way to vote. I came up with we basically came up with an online Google sheet where we all kind of selected our top 20 choices, and the ones that received the most votes, that's what we're going with. And there were some overwhelming ones. And I can give you an idea of a couple things that we're going to do differently this year. And this is where, obviously, we want to see where the D3 programming committee, what ideas that you guys are thinking of as well. So, we're not having duplicates. But one big thing that we're going to change this year, it's going to be we got to figure out how the layout of the room's going to work, but we're going to actually have an educational lounge. It basically is going to be in our vendors room. Every day you could sign up for hands-on Photoshop training. I'm not talking about sitting in a big room where you have your laptop open and it's sometimes difficult to follow along. It'll actually be maximum of 10 people per station. You have to sign up for it, and it's going to allow people who might still be struggling or want to learn how to how to do a cutout or something like that, are able to do this in actually a more intimate setting. It's something we've heard complaints about for years, is that these sessions are great, but when you're trying to learn it, it's not really a conducive environment. Hopefully this will give people a lot more ability to learn some of the little nuts and bolts that they need. We're also going to get people to come into the vendor room more and give a little bit more of that personal connection with our vendors, because often the only reason people go in there is for lunch.
Yep. No, I can say that we had one D3 day planning call about a month ago now, and we're kind of getting our ducks in a row, I guess, of what what topics we want to talk about, and most of the last call was mostly even just talking about format. What format, did we like the round tables? Did we, like the kind of podium table setup? Some of those kind of generic things. Obviously, I think on our next call, we'll get more in depth into actually kind of laying out more of a roadmap of what we have planned for the workshop.
Well, I'll send you guys the list of the 40 that were narrowed down to, just so you guys are aware. One other big thing that we're going to do this year is, last year we tried that trending topics for the first time, and actually two things. The trending topics were so popular that what we're planning on doing right now is actually having a 2-hour block each day with trending topics. It could be in the morning, it could be in the afternoon. That'll depend upon obviously what else is going on with awards programming and speakers and stuff like that. But that way we can cover more and give people more of like an a la carte choice of what they want to learn. And then we're gonna the speed networking last year was really popular. However, we had the problem that it went directly up against Divisional Day, so we're gonna have speed networking again. Just have to be really careful now before we schedule that to see when D3 Day, D2 Day, etc. is going to be, so we don't have that overlap.
Yeah, and I think we've even talked about some networking things within the D3 Day framework as well. Some of that networking stuff. I can tell you, Ann's on that committee with me, and we a lot of some of the topics that have been getting kicked around already has been one-man shop or one-person shop, I guess, versus having help, hiring and training and managing student workers, writing work, work-life balance, obviously tips and insights on social media, and obviously different budgeting technology things, transformation, maybe from assistant SID to SID, obviously some graphic design stuff, or some of the big ideas that have been kicked around. For those of you that don't know, the rest of the D3 Planning Committee, aside from me and Ann, is Megan Harden from Southwestern University in Texas, Stacy Ledoux at Brockport State, Kevin Fenstermacher from the PAC, Matthew Fenton from Claremont McKenna, Claremont Mudscripts, and Jennifer Jones from Birmingham Southern, and obviously Herb Vincent from COSIDA's our COSIDA liaison, and then obviously Adam Skaggs from D3.
Hey Lenny, has there been any talk of a town hall again for D3?
Well, that is something that usually becomes an every other year thing. So this coming year would be a year where one would be available. I do think it would help the business meeting if there was a town hall, because the business meeting turns into a town hall when we don't have a town hall. So I have no problem with the town hall. And anything I missed from our D3 Day meeting that you?
I'm sorry, what was that?
From our D3 Day planning meeting a couple weeks ago, I was just going over the committee and kind of some of the big picture stuff we've been talking about. Is there anything you think, anything else that you thought of that would,
I'm also on FAME, which is now WOSIDA, and I guess one of the things that they've been charged with, as Ira probably can attest to with his committee, is not this whole exit strategy, but like being realistic with helping people so that they can balance issues. And obviously with sexism and all the stuff that's going around from our friend Mr. Weinstein, there was a lot of talk about the reality of what it takes to be a woman in the profession, and not everybody has the right answers, and that some people have to weigh whether or not they should stay. So,
well, one of the
that
topics
was something that they were charged with.
One of the topics that was an overwhelming selection under diversity and inclusion was being a woman in the profession, how to sustain a career in sports info as a female. How do you do it? How do you have it all? Family, sports, husband, family, and then it breaks into also how do you become a football contact? How do you become a men's basketball contact as a woman, and how do you escape the stigma? And that was one of the overwhelming selections by the committee.
And then from our group discussion, it was we don't want somebody who's going to get up there and sugarcoat it and have everything be all rosy, because there is nobody who has that. There's always bumps. So trying to identify people who maybe overcome some challenges and maybe made decisions, and not every decision is the right decision, so it has to be something that you personally can find. So that was where we were at with trying to earmark people that we think would be a good fit for this topic.
I'll tell you what, Ann, I'll reach out to you guys, for that topic right there, because Wendy Mayer, who is my right-hand man with this, she was basically saying that she wants, she basically wants a lot of these topics this year, basically like what you just said, to not be sugarcoating, because we have too much of that sometimes. and we really want to give folks a clear picture of what reality is. So I'm glad you said that, and I'll have maybe Wendy reach out to you, and maybe we can get
Well,
both
she's on
sides
that
involved.
committee.
Topic.
She's on that committee
Oh, she is
already.
You
Yeah.
mentioned that.
So
Awesome.
And then Ira, just so you know, I've talked to John Keene at D3SIDA, and obviously trying to come up with if there's something that appears to be some dual thing that we can, joint thing that we can do together. I'm not sure if there is, or I'm sure there is, but what it is, I'm not sure. But so we've at least had some discussions and kind of tried, seeing how things, I guess, develop over the next couple months.
Well, that could maybe be. I mean, this past year we did the crisis communication one. So maybe, since this seems to be such a hot button topic right now, and I hate the term exit strategy. I don't know where that came from, but we all kept repeating it. Maybe because at the D2, D3 level, I think so many of us have such broad-based skills. We're not experts in one thing. We know we're experts in probably dozens of things, because you have to be able to maintain our offices. And maybe that is a conversation that needs to be had as a larger, D2, D3 group, maybe even NAIA side to get them involved.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Aaron too, not as much as John, but I've talked to Aaron Saygraves as well. Yeah, I mean, whether it's whether the work-life balance thing is something that we all get wrapped into, whether it's something else. Yeah, I agree that, obviously if you're in Washington, D.C., is there a speaker that, or some speaker that can appeal to a broad group of folks? Like I know when we were on the D3 Day call, I mean, I know it wasn't necessarily part of Divisional Day. It was the keynote of the day, but I thought Jack Ford's thing was great in that he spoke to everybody. He didn't speak to the people that work at the really big school or the people that work at the really small school. He had a great message that was universal for everybody across the board. So if there is, somebody like that in DC that we can get access to or something, that might be, something to look at. But all right.
And I know that we're trying to find a keynote speaker as a programming committee, as a keynote speaker. And the thing that we have to be really cognizant of is, we all watch the news. It's
well, nowadays in Washington, somebody's on one side of the fence or the other, so it's hard to find.
Yeah, and we don't want to ruffle any feathers. Like, I had some contacts, with people, unfortunately, in the White House just through some common friends, but we can't invite them because we'll piss off anybody who is, on the other side, and we can't invite anybody on the left because it'll piss off people on the right. So what we're trying to think is maybe having somebody who's either been a lobbyist or somebody who is with the Pentagon and has helped, the great stories of the military that have been out there, and really how to shape messages and tell stories in a larger, larger macro way. So that's what we're thinking. But hey, we certainly want some suggestions. So if anybody has some, please share them.
Say good luck finding somebody in the center right now. So, but anybody have any new business for the good of the order? I can say one thing that I think me and Ira were both included on a note from Sam Atkinson, and I think it's probably something that all of us are dealing with at our conference levels is, this whole statistics software and 32-bit over 64-bit and what's happening and going away and whatever. And I mean, it's obviously something that I think at some point every school is going to have to cross a bridge in some way or the other. I guess this can kind of dovetail a little bit because they're involved in statistics, and JJ can probably say something to this, and the idea that since our last call, as many people know, Presto Sports has been acquired by a different company. I think most of us that are Presto clients have talked to somebody at Presto. They did a really good job of reaching out to most of their clients individually, talk to them about the sale, and I don't, at least I don't anticipate any big organizational changes as far as Presto goes.
Agreed. Yeah. No, I think from the stats side, that's one of the things I'm going to focus on. I don't know if I told you guys, I signed a contract to be a consultant with them, so I'm going to be working on things from at least a more official capacity to try to help out move some things along and kind of be an idea generator and for them to bounce ideas off of, and I'll try and troubleshoot some things for them as well. But we're going to be looking at more resources coming into everything when we see this with the takeover, and I'm sure that's a message that they've been sending to you as they've talked to you on the phone for those of you that are clients. So I think it's a very real thing that they're starting to work on reporting right now for their statistics platform. And I think that's the next step that needs to happen, not just at the school level, but at the conference level as well. That, me in the conference office, Emily in the conference office, we need to be able to, figure out and click a report that we can look at for a week's time or 2 weeks' time or something that's more flexible. And they're working on that right now. They actually have a prototype of it in the back end that you can go into right now and play with and output some reports. But it's there. I think all the in-game stuff is there right now.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to give something a try and figure it out and start to look at it and save some money in the future, it's a very real prospect going forward.
Yep. I will say I have done soccer and lacrosse for the last 5 years on Presto and have had no major issues there. We experimented with baseball and softball last year, and we're going to use baseball and softball this year. We are testing football right now, and I think by next year we will be, we'll go on in football. And quite frankly, I mean, we just had an institution-wide budget cut here, and frankly, like a lot of you, I don't have a lot of flexible things in my budget that I can move. And so if I have an opportunity where I can shave some cost out by not purchasing some upgrades or something else, then that's really one of the few flexible things that I have. And JJ's right. I know in my discussions with him, they're not in the process of developing any more sports of statistics software. They're now going back to the sports they have and tweaking reporting functions and how reports might look and some things, and whether it's been feedback from me or JJ or other SIDs. I know the one name that I kicked around when I talked to Sam on this email chain that Ira and I have been on is Kevin Lanke at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. They use Presto exclusively for every sport, and he's done it for a year or so now, and he thinks it's great. And he and Rose-Hulman, for those that don't know, is one of the best technology schools in the nation, definitely in Division III. And so if they can figure it out, then obviously it's possible for just about anybody probably to figure it out. So
how do, career stats, if you switch platforms, how does that work?
So Presto generates a packed game file. The one thing that I'm sure JJ would agree with, the one bit of warning that people have to understand is that it doesn't, you have to go through and put the stat crew ID of the school you're playing in the software. Obviously, just like anything else, if I score a game in stat crew and I call your team a different name and I send it back to you, you're going to have problems importing it if you don't pay attention when it comes in. In Presto, you need to make sure that if I'm playing Sage and your ID is Sage, I type it in as Sage. I don't type it in as something else. But you can import stat crew rosters. It has the same scoring codes, the same keyboard functions work in their software that work in stat crew. So from a learning standpoint, it's not extremely difficult to pick up. Obviously, it works on 64-bit computers, Apple PC. It's got touchscreen functionality if you use an iPad or tablet, and just like a game on your cell phone, a game on your cell phone works even when your phone is not on the internet, because the software's there. And so if you open up the Presto scoring before you go to a venue, you go to a venue and score. If you don't have internet, when you get back on the internet, it catches back up all the stuff that happens. Obviously, from a live stat standpoint, it makes it seamless because you're doing everything within their system. If you're a live stat client of theirs, it automatically generates live stats without any extra steps. Sends stat copies to Presto or to Stretch Internet and if you need to push a stat somewhere or whatever else. But and like I said, I don't want to make it sound like some sales pitch for Presto. I guess.
Well, so my question is, okay, so next year, say I switch, what happens to everything that is pre-Presto in StatCrew, like all the record keeping? Do I have to now go?
That's what Presto's next step is right now. Is working on, like right now, you can go back in soccer, I think to like the 80s, and you could literally go on your Presto site right now and basically create those seasons back to a certain point. Presto has a stop point. Now, eventually, Presto will try and develop that. Like, they've got a great, I'm sure JJ's played with it, they have a great all-time series function on Presto that you can have turned on your site. So, like, for example, I've only had lacrosse for 5 years. So every game in lacrosse, it generates a page of a series history against that school that has every box score, location, trends, all those type of data. So that's what the step that Presto's working on now, Ian, is taking your archived history and how to bring your archive history into the system.
Yeah, and not only that, but the ultimate goal, I think, is going to be for live record books, so that immediately when you're done inputting a game and it goes to the system full wide, it will update your record book automatically.
Yeah. So that's coming. But right now, Ann, the simple answer to your question, Ann, is that you would still have an old version of StatCrew on a computer that you would just dump your files on and create your record books or whatever else until that time comes and it comes over.
Okay.
I should say that on November 19th, Jeff Williams from the NCAA invited me. There's a company that had sent out to the NCAA called Genius Sports. Genius Sports just became the main statistical software for the NBA, and I think they work with a bunch of other leagues around the world. I think it's something like 100 to 150 leagues around the world, so they're a pretty robust company. And they reached out to the NCAA to see if that they could get into the college market, maybe kind of become a potential alternative to StatCrew. So he's going to be in New York, Jeff Williams is, to meet with them, and he asked me to come. They're doing the stats for the Nets Golden State Warriors game. So we're going to go over to the Barclays, watch the Warriors kill the Nets, and kind of observe the software. And
I've seen. So we have a D League team. We're now G League, I guess, but a D League team in Canton that's affiliate of the Cavs, and they've been there about 5 years. And I've seen they run the NBA stat system on their stuff, and so I've seen it up close a little bit. It will look a lot like what the Presto stuff looks like, in the idea that it's a touch screen. The NBA thing's like a touch screen interface that people can program and do some things.
Did you see the new one though? They just became the new company, like starting currently.
Yeah, I haven't seen the newest one. This was just the version that NBA had been using for a while. It was funny. 5 years ago, when I saw NBA doing touchscreen stats, I was actually at ECAC site in Pittsburgh, and Presto and StatCrew were both doing presentations, and I said something to Monica about having touchscreen interface of stats. She was like, "Oh, that'll never. Oh, no." Like,
Well, and it's funny. I have a student that has to come up with some project for his business lab, and he is like, why can't there be an audio one? So you talk in code and it recognizes your voice and does it without even having the human keystroke. I'm like, you make that, dude, you're a billionaire. So.
Great.
Does anybody use it on this call? The new Presto software?
I do. For what sports?
We use it for everything now. The Heartland's going over to it big time. So.
Yeah, well, Kevin, Kevin Lanky, Mark, as I was saying, Kevin was the guy I talked to about it, and if Rose Holman can figure it out, then it's got to be pretty good if they're using it, because they're
my student workers think it's easier than StatCrew.
So do mine. When we were doing baseball and softball, that's what my kids my kids like the idea of watching the diamond, and you go up to the position and a drop down menu of players come up and some things. And not to say it's not without its bugs or things that got to get worked out. There's things like roster limits in baseball that are an issue, and some other things. But I don't know. I know on my campus, my IT people are great and they're really supportive, but they've had about enough of us having the only 32-bit computers on campus, and and there's everything from network security to 100 other things that they, they're being supportive to a point, but at some point that's gonna run out.
You're here.
We have no more 32-bit computers on our campus.
Right.
I'm using my wife's old laptop to generate our season files.
The laptop that I do the Stag Bowl with in men's basketball is as old as I am in this league, so it's been around for 11 years. So go for it.
Well, my IT people have been like, I've got a couple laptops that nobody else wants that they got, and a desktop here in the stadium, and basically when these things spontaneously combust, that they're not replacing them. So we've got to kind of come up with Plan B. So and it's probably more me than anything else. Our students would probably go all presto right now if I told them to go ahead. It's probably more me getting them over there than anything else. But that's interesting, Mark. So you're using it for football, volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody on the email chain had a question about volleyball on it, Mark. Of course, somebody asked me about it, and I said, well, you'll have to ask somebody that's actually ever statted a volleyball match to ask
There are some nuances with it, but I mean the way that I explain that is this is a new product. It's reverse engineered from Stat Crew, but you can't just assume that everything is going to be 100% the same.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing that we need to get people beyond it. If they're having issues with the functionality of the program, the accuracy of the program is so much better than it was 3-4 years ago when they first started getting serious about it.
Yep.
So I don't think that's so much a concern anymore. Now we just need people to realize that this is new technology. A lot of it, 95% of it, is going to be the same from what you've done. But those little things that you miss, you're just going to have to experience it to figure it out, just like you did the first time. You learned every Stat Crew program.
Yeah, I don't know about Mark. But I mean, I haven't had. We haven't sent one soccer file to anybody that they've said, well, hey, I can't open this, or it doesn't work, or whatever else.
Agreed.
It was just fine. I think the biggest nuance with volleyball is two things I've seen. You have to call the serve receive out on every attempt because it won't go forward. And then if there's a block or a continuing overpass, you have to call out the dig first before the overpass, so you can't just go over because the program won't recognize that. But that's all I've seen. So.
But you need the serve reception anyway. I mean.
Yeah, you do. So yeah,
correct.
On the flip side, though, with the old Stat Crew, you didn't have to call out the serve receive it for a while. You could just go set after the serve was put up. So.
I wouldn't do that if you ever have a player you want to put up for Defensive Player of the Year because you need need that serve reception.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's just some past years. So.
Well, you guys are like speaking Spanish, but no, it's as I say.
I forgot Ira was on the call because he's always pinning me.
Well, hey, I'm the one. Hey, I'm going to need Ira a lot now since we've added men's volleyball. So I'm at a.
I want to know where all these teams were when I was coming out of high school. There was like 10 teams. Now there's like 150.
Yeah, we're in the next year. We're in the fray for next year. So.
Yeah, but I'm going to be 41. I'm not eligible anymore.
When you go to put in your schedule, and half these teams that don't have men's volleyball have it, and there's no code, and they don't exist in the Presto pull down. So I've had that fun already.
Yep. There's some. Well, you can. Yeah. That's.
Right, but I'm just saying, like they don't exist. Like it's not an option. You keep typing. I'm like, no, I know they're having a team. They're in my conference, so.
Yeah, well, that's men's volleyball.
If you ever play Ohio University Chillicothe, look out.
Oh, you chili bobo.
Yes.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Any other new business? Anything else going on that? Obviously, I think we're all aware of what happened with Eric a couple weeks ago, and So I think most of us have talked to him, and that's, I guess, what happens in this business. So.
And if anybody wants to reach out to him, I have a different new email address and a cell phone number. And if you're fortunate to play me this year in basketball, he will be my stats inputter, so you can come say hi.
There you go. I like it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, if there is nothing else, then I guess we are adjourned. I guess by the way the calendar would go, our next call may come at a time when...
You could do it at the Stag Bowl, right?
I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I mean...
You guys just scored 71 points against Capitals last week on the road, and you don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Well, that was here. That wasn't on the road.
But still.
Lenny, we could do the next call from a booth at Mac and Bob's.
As long as we can all get some of that, chicken that you were mentioning before. So.
Boston zone.
It would only be appropriate. I will say, and JJ's heard me say this already. It will only be appropriate that if it is going to be the last time in Salem, that we would be there. But we'll have to see. We got some work to do.
Not only that, but it's the 25th one in Salem, so a couple things going on.
Couple things going on. Well, and you don't have to comment on it, JJ. I think if anybody saw the story out of Shenandoah, Texas last week, maybe it's not the last one in Salem.
that had a couple of us thinking about it. If anybody hadn't seen that, the city council for Shenandoah, Texas, had not yet approved the money to host the game, yet it's been awarded. So,
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it could be just a little bit of gamesmanship going on there, but
correct. Yeah, it could be just some formality. So we'll see what happens there with that. But that's fun.
I think that's the horse poop before the horse and the cart.
Yeah, but that's my question for that one would be: did the committee that awarded the bid actually know that was the case, and were they working off a promise? Or did somebody really not want to be in Salem that hard, or somebody really wanted in Shenandoah, Texas that much? That's my question.
That's a lot of things. Well,
Yep. That's all right.
Like I said, well, right now,
conspiracy theory, brother.
Our tentative plan would be right now to, I guess, if we're following our format, would be December 21st, Thursday, December 21st, at the same time. So, if we have to make a adjustment, then we'll make an adjustment. So, this is usually a time that JJ is at the stadium. That much I know. So.
I think the game's the weekend before that, though, right?
Oh, is it?
I think so. I think it's an early one this year. Hang on a minute.
I'm only in week 6. I can't even, or 7. I can't even worry.
I'm on .com. So let me have a look here. Hang on a minute, and it is .com. So yeah, Stag Bowl's the 15th this year. So that's a week later.
So the 21st, everybody should be in the clear. So
yeah, the NCAA calendar backs up next year.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, if anybody needs anything, we all know how to get a hold of each other. Thanks again. Like I said, I know everybody's really busy right now, and we'll see everybody on December 21st.
Lenny, one other thing for the group. I apologize. This is Ann. Start thinking about our peers that we want to present for awards for D3SIDA. That nomination process would be the end of January, so we need to potentially have people ready to go and their packet finished by the time we talk in December.
Here. I have some. I think there's some good. I definitely think there's some good people out there that we want to make sure some D3 people get in some of these award things. So.
Well, we're going to have 2 CDMAC calls between now and then, and that's one of the things that I know CDMAC does every year, is tries to put together a slate of people that we want to nominate out of the D2, D3 NAIA ranks.
And
so
I'm on special awards, so I can tell you who's at the end of their ballot lifetime, because people hold over for 3 years. So I can tell you, once I get the latest one, where we are that are still in the mix, or somebody who would need to be renominated, just so you know.
So if somebody is nominated, it stays in the system for 3 years, and you don't have to renominate?
No, you do not have to. But then what Tam would do, or now Diane will do, is contact, Ann King Carol Grell's nomination has lived its term out. Would you like to renominate? Is there anything you'd like to do, or let it lapse? Does that make sense?
Yes, fully.
Ira,
I can.
When is the next CD Mac call, or is there?
I'm going to actually be sending out a doodle tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay,
so
good.
you will.
I was making sure I didn't miss something, so that's all right.
You're one of the biggest parts of this component.
Oh no, not me. So, all right, well, good stuff. Thanks again, everybody, and we will hear from everybody in December. Good luck with crossover season. I know swimming starts for me tomorrow. So.
Lucky you.
Thank you.
Yeah, lucky me. All right, we'll see everybody.
Hi, everybody.